and the exact campaign structure to use flexible Facebook ads so that you can get the best ROAS and ultimately scale your ads. So first of all, what is a flexible Facebook ad? Now, jumping into the ad account here, if we go ahead and create a new campaign and then we go to sales, right? And let's just go ahead and create a sales campaign. You can also do this with a lead gen campaign. Okay, let me go ahead and turn this off. Turn off Advantage Plus Catalog. Okay, now if we leave all the other settings and then we go down to the ad set level, if we change this over to website, what we're going to do is now we're optimizing for conversions, right? So if we optimize for purchase, let's say, we do have these kind of couple of settings turned on right here because we're using an Advantage Plus sales campaign, which is fine. Then if we scroll down here, we can see all these other settings are already set up. We have Advantage Plus audience, which I'll get into my recommendations on that. But then if you go down to the ad level, then you can see right here, we have now the flexible option right here, which when we enable that, gives us the option to add in 10 media, 5 primary text, up to 5 headlines, and up to 5 descriptions. So if you then fill in your ad like this, you can see I can upload multiple images, right? So I have 4 images in this case. I can upload multiple primary text, multiple headlines, and what Facebook is going to do is it's automatically going to split test each of those different variations together. Now, if you maximize every single placement, 10 images, 5 primary text, 5 headlines, you're going to need a lot of budget to actually properly test that. And you're going to find Facebook's probably not even going to test all of the assets in there. So I don't actually recommend you filling it up completely. However, essentially it gives a way for Facebook to automatically use its AI to find the best combination of assets to get the best ad result in terms of click-through rates and ultimately ROAS, right? And it's going to optimize essentially for what you're optimizing for here, right? So if it's purchases, it's going to find the best combination of ads that you upload to ultimately get you the most purchases. So it takes out a lot of the guesswork on your end in figuring out which assets should you use, because you can just upload them all here and Facebook's gonna automatically test it. So that's the primary reason why we use the flexible Facebook ad format. It takes out the need for manual testing and it replaces that with Facebook automatically optimizing our budget and optimizing the split tests to just cut any wasted budget and ultimately put majority of the budget into the top performing ad in the fastest way possible. And so if you're familiar with DCA or dynamic creative ads, that was a feature that was used in Facebook before, and now that is being removed from more and more ad accounts, and some ad accounts it's still there. However, it is being replaced by this new flexible format, which is found at the ad level. All right, so how do you actually structure your flexible Facebook ad campaign to get the best results? Now, here is what you should use flexible Facebook ads for, and this is who it's for, right? You're optimizing for leads or purchases, right? So you have a clear objective that you're optimizing for that Facebook can actually use its data around to find the best optimization for which ad is going to get you the most results, right? And you're just starting out or you have existing data, it works in both cases, and you're looking to test new ads quickly and efficiently. So you have a cadence of new ads that you have, you're able to write new primary text, create new ad images and videos, and you want to test a lot of different variations. It's great for all those formats. It's the fastest way to test and get the best results. Now, this is how we actually test flexible Facebook ads. So this is our entire campaign structure seen in this chart right here. So it starts out with our research, right? And figuring out your ad angles and your ad copy and your creative. And then your campaign structure is seen in the blue right here. So you have your manual sales campaign that we are going to be creating. So this is again, manual sales campaign or Advantage campaign budget, which is at $100 per day minimum. And so as you can see, when I was setting up this test campaign right here, this is this right here, where we have the campaign budget right here, and then we set our daily budget at the campaign level, not the ad set level. And we do that because we're giving Facebook's data and AI the most freedom to optimize our ads the most efficient way possible versus manually trying to control the budget at the ad set level. Okay, then beneath that, we have our multiple ad sets where we have our winning 001 ad set, which I'm going to get to later, how to create that if you have existing ads that already have really great performance and how to leverage those and continue to get investment into them to get the best results. And then we're going to have our ad tests, which is we're going to have our audiences, either broad or a lookalike or interest. And then we're going to have our angles, which are going to be the flexible ads. Okay, and then that's all going to one singular ad, which is that flexible ad. So if you see here, we have one singular ad right here, which we're going to populate in with our flexible ad angles. Okay, and that's all leading to purchase or lead generation or whatever you're doing. Okay, so the research stage is composed of this. You want to generate an ad angle, and this is super important because each of your flexible ad tests, you want to have a specific angle that you are testing for within each of them, right? And so we think of ad angles as 3 creatives when it's broken down. And so those creatives can either be video ads or static ads. And so within each of those formats, you want to have, if you have a video ad, you want to have these 3 different types of videos. So you either want to have 3 videos which have a new hook. So you don't need to change your entire video. You just want to change the first 5 seconds, which you're going to notice, Alex Hormozi talking about. A lot of digital marketers, the first 5 seconds is the most important part. So that's what you want to focus on optimizing and changing, right? So 3 videos, just a new visual hook with the same script and the same body. Another way that you can split test the same video ad is by using 3 videos with a new script hook, which is new text, new words in the first 5 seconds with the same visual body and the same visuals, right? And so in this one, it's the exact same content, exact same script, just a new visual. This one, it's the exact same visuals, exact same body, just a new script at the start. So calling out a new person at the start, or again, new visuals. Okay, and then static, kind of the same idea there. We have 3 images in each. One variation that we can do that we can test for an ad angle is we have 3 images with a new visual, same headline, which I'm going to show you an example of later, or we have 3 images with the same visual, but a new headline in that static ad. And that's 3 different ways you can take the same ad creative, tweak it slightly. All of a sudden you have 3 new variations of that. Okay. And real quick on an ad angle, this is how we define an ad angle and how you can come up with your ad angles. It comes down to defining your persona. So who is the customer you're trying to go after? And there's multiple personas that you can likely target that are going to be relevant for your business. Then you're going to have your market desire, right? So what is they ultimately desire about your product or service? Then you have their awareness level, how sophisticated are they? And then the unique mechanism that you are deploying to get them interested, right? And so that is what we consider to encompass your ad angle. And so you can play on each of those to figure out different ad angles based on different personas and awareness levels and sophistications, etc. Okay, so not going to go into super depth on that, but that's ad angles quickly there. Next, you have your ad copy and creative. And so this is the structure that we're using right here. So we have flexible / DCA testing. So you have your ad angle 001, as we showed you in the campaign structure. And then you have your ad set 001, which is using broad targeting. And then you're going to have within there 3 creatives. You're going to have 2 primary headlines. You're going to have 2 primary texts for a total of 12 ads, which is 3 + 2 + 2, or 3 × 2 × 2 added up to 12. And then in your second ad set, you're going to take the exact same angle and you're going to test an interest in a lookalike audience because we're just giving it the most possible visibility. Sometimes you're going to launch one test, it might not perform. So giving it multiple chances with different interests can have it perform, okay? Not going to worry too much about the targeting other than that. Mostly it comes down to the ad quality, which is going to give you the results, okay? So in the same thing here, it's the exact same ad. It's just going to have different targeting, and then it's the same 3 creatives, 2 headlines, 2 primary text. So that's the structure that we're using here. So this is how we set up the campaign. We have our sales campaign, which I just showed you how to create. Then we're going to select a manual sales campaign, okay? We're going to go Advantage campaign budget, or it might be shown as this. So again, Advantage plus sales campaign is what they're calling it now. So kind of the same idea there. Advantage sales campaign, you're using the campaign budget. That's the most important part. Okay. Then you're going to have your ad set level. So again, this is the ad set level structure. We're going to have our winning, and we're going to have our ad set 001 with audience 1, broad with angle 1, ad set 002 with audience 2, with our interest and lookalikes with the same angle 1, and just repeat that over and over again, and that's how we're testing. Okay, so this is what the ad set will look like at a high level right here. So we have our 0037, 0033. We have our interest, which we're primarily using broad because we found broad to work best in this case. However, you can use interest as well, as you can see that we're using here. Again, that's why we test both to see which one ultimately gets the best results, and we kind of stick with that. Okay, so to set up the ad set right here, what you're going to do, select website. Okay, and then you want to select purchase as well. Okay, then you have the dynamic creative element. Again, they're phasing that out, so it might be there, it might not be. This is what we are essentially turning off to opt for flexible Facebook ads. And so dynamic creative, pretty much the same thing as flexible ads. It's just kind of replacing that and moving to the ad level, as you can kind of see right here. This allows you to continue to produce creative elements, automatically generate combinations, and again, but it's going away soon. So again, if you're watching this, you have a new ad account, you're probably going to only be seeing the flexible ad format. And then what we're going to be doing is we have then our audience controls and everything like that. So what we're going to be doing right here is we're going to be clicking on switch to original audience options, and we're going to use the original audience options right here and leave that as either broad, targeting your location and your age range and your gender, or adding in a single interest. And so we like to do single, quite broad interest. So if you're targeting dogs, we add in dogs. If you're targeting hiking, target hiking, or something similar and related to that. So single interest or broad targeting, and you're going to want to see your audience is broad in the green range. That's going to give you the best chance at results, and just limit it by, again, geography, limit it by age, and limit your campaign by country, right? And so that's a better way to segment as well. Have your countries broken out into the campaigns, not necessarily in the ad set level. Okay, so then it would look like this. In this case, this is what broad would look like. We have, again, 18 to 65 plus, all genders, no interest targeting, but it is switched to a manual audience targeting. Okay, and then the ad level, again, this is what the ad level looks like, and that's how we're testing. Okay, so in this case, we have 0039, as you can see here, which we're using pack 1. And so what we're going to do is go create ad, manual upload. We're going to select flexible. And then what we're going to do, again, we have the research. We have our ad angle 001, which consists of 3 creative, right? Either these formats right here. So you can either have any of these 4, right? So 3 images with the same visual, new headline, 3 images with a new visual, or videos with a new first visual 5-second hook or new script hook, right? And so this is how we're setting that up. Again, 3, 2, 2, and this is what that looks like, right? So we have right here the primaries where we have 3 different headlines, 3 different static images with different headlines right here. So you can see 3 all have the same visuals, just we're changing out the headline in each of these. Okay, and so we have 2 primary text right here. Then we have 2 headlines that we are also testing that match up with that image. And that's how we're testing. And that's where there's not too many variables. We know what we're testing. We know exactly what we're doing. We're not just throwing everything in here. And we're clearly testing the visual with different headlines to see which ultimately resonates the most with different primary text and headlines as well. Okay. And so this is what that looks like again on the ad level right there. Okay. And then this is what those ads look like. And so you can see here, again, same visuals. We're just testing different headlines. And so we have infinite light shows in under an hour, how DJs create dynamic sets, and design your light show in minutes. And so these are all using slightly different headlines based on our personas, based on the different mechanisms, just testing the different copywriting and what ultimately gets people's attention more, so we can learn from that and obviously lean into that more. Okay, this is another variation where if we change the visual, right, but use this same overall headline. And so these all use different visuals and backgrounds to see which of these is ultimately getting people's interest more clicks, better results, using the same winning primary headline in each of these. Okay, so a couple FAQs to finish out. How to integrate already performing ads using that winning ad set. So if you're currently running ads and you have great results with some ads, right, you're gonna have some top ads. You're gonna want to leverage those ads because they have existing engagement and comments and shares, and that is great for ads to have social proof. And so we want to continue to leverage those. And so again, this is that winning ad. This is what that looks like. So we want to create an ad. This is our main ad that we're going to be using in this new campaign here, where we have 3 to 5 of your top performing ads that we're going to be taking from existing campaigns and bringing them into this one ad set. And again, we want to be running all of this in one campaign. We don't want to be having multiple campaigns with multiple different things, except segmented by country. We want to be bringing it all into one place where we can then bring your top ads together and have all the budget being used by Facebook to determine which campaigns and ad sets ultimately are going to get the majority of the budget based on the results. Okay, so in this one ad set, you can see we have 3 to 5 of our top performing ads that we have sourced and brought into here using this method, which is using the post ID. So if you have an existing post with comments, what we're going to be doing is going to that post, even if it's a dynamic or a flexible ad, you can still go here, go to Facebook post with comments at the ad level, and then you can actually go see that ad. And so in this case, you can see it has 83 likes, 5 comments, 2 shares. We can actually go ahead and go to the top of the URL, grab that post ID, right? And then when we are creating our ad set using our top audience, or you can just use broad targeting as well, then you can populate that in there by selecting use existing post, add in your post ID, and you can select that ad. This one is different than the one I showed you here, but this one has 635 comments, 190 shares, and even more likes. And so obviously this is an ad that we want to continue to use and we don't want to just throw away. And so in this ad, we are grabbing this post ID and we're using that in that existing ad set that you saw. And so that's how you create your winning ad campaign, right? You want to grab all the top ads using the post ID, adding them in there using the existing post to continue to retain that engagement. And that's probably going to be your top performing ad set, which you're trying to outperform with new ads. Okay, so how to test if your account is brand new. So same structure right here. We have our ad angles, we have broad and lookalikes and interest targeting. Do the same thing. However, you don't have to worry as much about adding in the individual angles and split testing as much. You can just create one ad set. I would still populate it with 3 creatives, 2 primaries, headlines, and 2 primary texts, right? but just throw in whatever you have in there. I would keep videos and images separate, but throw in 3 different images that you have and headlines and primary text that you've found to work or you think will work well. And you can just test videos in a separate one, use 3 videos, use 2 primary text, etc. Just continue to test that way, and you're going to get good results using that. And so you don't have to worry much about the angle split testing and really getting granular. Just try to test everything out in multiple ad sets to figure out what's working the best. Cut the ad sets that aren't performing, learn from the top ads that are getting the best results, and then try to create new ads, create new primary text, new headlines, new images, and videos based on the top performers. So how many tests to run per week? Now, I would aim to launch about 2 to 3 ad sets per week. So if you're a brand new account, launch with 2 to 3 ad sets using that combination that I showed you earlier. Right. And so learn from the top performers and do something similar, but improve upon those. And so if you found a particular image works well with bright visuals and a particular headline, then try to do something similar. Try to create a video based on that winning static ad, or try to take that same video, but make the body a little bit more compelling if you're finding some fall off there, or make the hook a little bit better if you can. Right. And so even just testing new ad copy or new headline changes is a way to split test. And so if you're don't have capacity to create new videos every week or new creatives entirely new, you can just change out the headlines, change out the primary text, and just try launching some new ads with some new angles, trying to hit a new avatar is the best way to do that. And so if you're targeting currently, young men, maybe try targeting, midlife men, right? Who might have a different persona, might look a little bit different, might have different concerns and different priorities to use your product or service. Okay, now, how do you optimize your ads? Now, the thing is with this, because you're using the campaign budget, Facebook's going to automatically inject the budget into the top performing ad sets naturally. So there's not a whole lot that you need to do. However, you're going to notice a couple ad sets are going to get most of the spend because they're getting the best results. And so if you see lower ad sets that are getting a little bit of spend, that are maybe they even have a really good ROAS, but they're not getting very much spend, you can cut those too, right? So turn off any ads that are getting very little spend. If they have a high ROAS, you can leave them on if you want. Ultimately, they're not driving a ton of results, but naturally, again, Facebook is going to funnel the budget into the top performing stuff. So you don't need to do too much. Just turn off the ones that are getting very little spend and continue to launch new tests. And that's how you're going to be optimizing. Now, if it has high spend, but a low ROAS, so say a new ad set that you launch takes over the budget, it's getting a really great CTR. The Facebook obviously is preferring the ad, getting a really low cost per click potentially. However, you'll notice that happens a lot. However, maybe it isn't getting the best ROAS. And so what you want to do in that case is it might take a little bit for the actual ROAS to populate. It might be doing well, but just takes a little bit for that ROAS to kind of pick up like among the other ads because of the 7-day click attribution. And so what you can do is leave that on for another 3 to 5 days before ultimately cutting it if it's not getting you the KPIs, the ROAS that you would need. Okay, and what do you do if your tests aren't getting any spend? So like I alluded to, Facebook will automatically prioritize and optimize your budget, right? And so if you launch a new test and it's not getting any spend, ultimately that means that that test wasn't that successful. It will put a little bit of budget behind it. So you'll notice, if it doesn't spend anything at all, fair enough. Maybe you want to put in a minimum ad set budget just so it gets a little bit of budget, a little bit of momentum. But in general, Facebook's going to test it out a little bit. And ultimately, if the CTR isn't there, if the click-through rate isn't high, if the numbers are all out of whack, Facebook will cut that budget very, very quickly. And then you might see it only has $20, $30, $40 in spend. That means it didn't perform well, right? If you see a high cost per click, a low CTR, it's not the best ad. Facebook found that out quickly. You can launch another test, again, that's why we launch with interest and broad to see if it will perform on either. If it doesn't, I would just move on, try a new angle out. Ultimately, those ads that you launched probably just aren't that good. And so that's why you need to go back to the drawing board and constantly be launching new tests based on the winners. Now, lastly, budget and scaling. This is how we talk about budget. So we recommend a minimum of $100 per day or equal to your AOV. So if your AOV is 150, I'd recommend starting at 150. If it's 200, I'd recommend starting at 200, right? Just so you get enough data in there. Now, of course, you can start less, but I would recommend a minimum $100 per day. And when it comes to scaling, if you're getting a really good ROAS, what's great about this is you can just increase the campaign budget without needing to increase individual ad sets and break anything. So what you can do to scale gradually without breaking anything is increase by about 20% every 24 hours. I like to keep it at even intervals. So if I'm at $100 per day, I might increase a little bit more. I might go to $150 per day, which is totally fine at lower budgets. Then I might go from 150 to 200. I might go from 200 to 250, etc. Right? If I'm at 300, I might go to 300 to 400. But especially when you get to higher and higher budgets, those intervals become obviously less of a percent. And so you want to keep it around 20%. I wouldn't go above 50%. So I would try to, increase by about 50% if you're seeing a good ROAS at a maximum. Especially when you get higher, 20% is going to be the ideal kind of number where it's a good increase, but it's not too much. And if you're compounding 20% increases every single day, that adds up to a lot over the course of like a week. So 20% is totally fine without ruining things. And once you do reach that kind of ceiling where you see the results are, kind of tanking, leave that for about 24, 48 hours. If the results are still not great, then continue to drop back down by about 20% until your results stabilize and you're at a good ROAS again. And if you do reach that breaking point, that's a great sign that, hey, I now know where I'm going to start losing efficiencies in my funnel. So ultimately, I need to make better ads, or I need to make my funnel convert better, or increase my AOV so that I can continue to spend more